Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Picciuto, and I'm pleased to be joined by the one and only Mr. Oliver Halfin with us in studio today. How you doing, Oliver?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you give a quick introduction to listeners to who you are?
Yeah, my name's Oliver Halfin. I'm a photographer, director, filmmaker from London, and I moved to I lived in LA for a year, pre-pandemic, and I moved to New York City a year and a half ago.
How's that going so far?
It's going great.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's the question everyone asks.
Yeah.
How's it going? Because it's not the easiest city to move to. You know?
So I'm biased. Oh shit! I'm not wearing my New York or Nowhere hat. This is like the first podcast in like a month that I'm not wearing it.
But you have.
I got a Giants hat. I'm biased. I'm a New York or Nowhere kind of guy. Talk to me about like your early career in London and the UK and growing up and sort of like when did you first find your love for photography?
When I was young, I did always take photos, and I'm an only child, and my parents got divorced when I was very young, but my father's a photographer.
Oh,
so I grew up really in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
He predominantly shoots music, and he's done it for a long time. So had a kind of wild upbringing as a child. In and amongst that world, and then had a crazy divorce from my parents. They still don't speak, when I was like 10. And then I didn't speak to my dad. I wasn't very close to him for a long time. So I wasn't, I was like very close to I still am. We're all friends now, but I was close to my mom. So it's funny. So I had this kind of revolt against photography when in my teenage years. And so I was like, up to about 10, I was taking pictures. I was really into cameras. It's like the 90s. There was like film cameras and everything. Then got to my teenage years, had this revolt, and went from I guess like a private school, like my first school with like a different crowd, to a public school. A public school in England is like a state, like government school. Mm-hmm. So I went to that sort of school, and then the crowd I was in, I was just like really anti everything my dad was doing. So it was like I don't know. I was into all kinds of things. I was into graffiti. I was into I was like street culture, graffiti, all that stuff for a long time. And then I went to college, came out of that, went to college, went to university, studied film, studied media, did have a degree in business and marketing, did that, was taking pictures in university, really enjoyed that when I was sort of like 18 to 21 maybe, which was, I went to university in Brighton, which is like, I would describe it as like San Francisco in England.
Nice.
Like the equivalent. It's very liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Great community there. A lot of music, and it's on the coast. So I was kind of like photographing events then in Brighton, and then graduated university, worked in corporate jobs for a bit for like advertising companies. Realized I didn't really like that. Working in a kind of the corporate ladder. Yeah. And inherently I am creative, so I was like, then ended up getting a job that was, I guess, in a publishing industry. So it's a company they were like the original Taschen, if you know Taschen, Frederick Taschen. So
there's probably
you probably have one
somewhere. Yeah, right.
So the company's called Genesis. Genesis Pub. Oh, there we go. Yeah, a lot of great books.
I have so many of them.
Yeah, that's the Polaroids by Andy
I have
Warhol
the same book at home. Yeah,
that's a great one.
I shoot a shit ton of Polaroids.
Oh, you do?
So many Polaroids.
I can't wait to get into that.
Thousands of dollars of Polaroids. Please sponsor me.
Let's get him some film.
I know, for real. $20 a pack. That shit is getting expensive.
Yeah, and it's funny actually. The Polaroid segue. I met with a photographer the other night, and he was telling me about the Polaroid one shot.
Yeah.
You know about this?
Yeah.
And he said the film. He didn't know he got bought the camera, which I guess is not that expensive.
Yeah, cheap.
Then you got to buy one bulb, only lasts for 4 shots.
Only 4? Oh,
four shots. But then the film, 10 shots is $275.
Yeah, FP100C? Is that the one?
No, it's not. That's cheap. That's a little cheaper.
Oh, okay.
That's not the food. You mean the food?
Yeah, the peel pole.
Yeah, this is just like Polaroid brand.
Oh, okay.
But like
their
big,
peel
large
pole.
format film for this camera called the One Shot, which was one of the.
It's the one shot where like it's like the long one.
I think so.
The nose, it kind of like
Yeah, and Andy was famous for using it.
I was gonna buy one because the cameras are super cheap, and then I saw the cost of the film. I've shot one peel apart roll of film before. It cost me $100, and I really like the photos. They're beautiful, but like I'll never shoot it again.
Well, I will give you some, because I bought a stock of someone, and when I think they stopped making it in 2013.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like with the peel apart FP100. It's like the older it is, the older batch. Like if it has like 2008 on it,
Yeah.
then it might be, it's more likely to be damaged.
Shootable. Oh, damaged.
No, yeah,
Oh.
you want it, and it's more expensive as it's more recent, more recent in time. And so I bought like 20 boxes. So I have some, but it is, and it's I haven't. You should shoot it. You shouldn't just leave it. I've kind of like left it for a couple of years, and I actually I always had good luck with it, and then I had a big shoot in LA, and I did this whole spiel to like the talent of like, this is, and they like really didn't care about film, so I'm like, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this for this, shoot this amazing like discontinued Polaroid, there's gonna be like a print, and you're gonna love it. And every single shot was like, because when it's damaged, you can't even see the picture, like the chemicals just fuse, and it was just every one was the best. So I was like, okay, so the next one will be good. And I went through 2 whole boxes and didn't get a picture, and it was really embarrassing.
Have you always? So I mean, obviously, it's funny. So I didn't realize as a kid that I loved photography. It wasn't until my parents sold their house. So I came to photography only in the last 5 years when I lost my job during the pandemic. And when we were cleaning out my parents' house, I had boxes and boxes of like, fucking disposables that I shot. And, you would take them to the local photo place, they would develop it, and I'd get 36 shots in like the little envelope.
Yeah.
And I had all these pictures, like all these class trips that I went on and all these things in like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I said to my mom, I was like, I don't remember shooting this. She's like, oh, John, you used to make me buy these disposables all the time. And it was funny because I had already started doing photography and I was like, maybe we should have talked about this sometime, like in the last 25, 30 years before, like, losing my job. But it was very funny because it was something that I'd always been very enthusiastic about, but then lost it, as one does with life. Yeah. Did you sort of have that same experience when you were 10, you kind of stopped? How did like film get, brought back into your life and your career?
So I think my like pivotal moment in all of that was I started working with this company which is similar to Taschen, but they were pre-Taschen, so they're still around. They're called Genesis Publications, and they make really beautiful limited edition books like Taschen does, but they're all, it's like the books are maybe over $1,000, but wow. I remember the costs that go into them, and they don't really make much profit because it's like everything's bound in Italy, and like the leather's in papers made in Italy, or papers made in Germany, the leather's bound in Italy, and they make like 2 or 3 books a year. And they're amazing. And they actually started because the 2 owners, their father went to school with who's the guitarist of the Beatles.
Paul McCartney?
The other one, he's a bass player.
Oh, Harrison.
Yeah, George Harrison. He went to school with George Harrison. And they were school kids, and George became really famous, and then said, I want you to do like a really nice book on my band. He was already making like historical books of ships' manuscripts.
Wow.
So he was doing like history archival books of like Napoleon's manuscripts or something.
Wow.
So then George asked him, so his first book he made was a Beatles book, first like music book was a Beatles book, and that book now is worth, if you can find it, it's like over $50,000. So they become like art pieces, and then all the Beatles signed it.
Wow.
And then he went on, and he did. I worked on a Bowie one. Bowie was still alive then when I was there at the company. And I worked on a Beatles book, so they've done maybe like 20 Beatles books. And the one I worked on was called The Hamburg Days, which was the Beatles' first. Before they made it, they went to Hamburg.
Yeah, I remember this.
And they played just in bars for 2 years.
Like small pubs, right?
Or like one, like a residency. Like you'll go, to like the Bowery, and there's like a resident band. Mm-hmm. And they did that every night, for no money. And that's how they got really, really good. It's just like playing for 2-3 years. And then they had their friends was Klaus Forman and Astrid Kutscher. Okay. And Astrid was a photographer. Klaus, I think, was a photographer too, and he also played, I think, in the Beatles, but he didn't want to be in the band. And he was like, I don't want to do it, but he was just their friend. And they were like their friends in Germany, in Hamburg, and some of those early photographs, so I remember like looking and seeing what Astrid was shooting, and she sadly passed away now. And that was what inspired me. So I remember like looking through the archives as they were building that book, and like looking and seeing, and not just her, but like all the different photographers' archives that they were using. And then that was like a light bulb moment, like where it clicked for me. And then I think delving into the archives in Genesis of just all that historical photography.
I fucking love that.
I thought, okay, I want to do it. But then I was like, because I was like, well. The kind of father's shoes thing like put me off a bit. So I was like, Well, there's that, and then I was like doubting myself how good I would be,
Oh,
because I was like, well, I've been doing it a bit, and then you kind of see it when you're right at the start. You're kind of looking at people that are at the top of their career, and you think, wow, that's like a really, really,
yeah,
how am I ever going to get there?
yeah.
So then I think I just started doing it. So I was, still working jobs. I started, left, that was there for like a year or two. Then started working in galleries. That was another moment for me. So started helping curate exhibitions, again, around more, I think that was for me, I was just around iconic, legendary, historical photography.
Love that.
And see it was from the other side. So helping like curate, and then, helping photographers with processing, printing. So I sort of understood like the nature of printing and how to curate a gallery and like different paper types, all of that before I was like really shooting a lot.
Oh.
And then I was like, and then it's like, well, what are you going to get as your first camera? Because that's a question everyone asks me now. They're like, what should I get? I want to run a great camera, and I'm like, how much money do you have? And then they go like, I have $200, and I'm like, well, it's kind of hard,
Yeah.
Well,
you buy Canon A1.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but then people ask me for like a digital SLR. Or something. But so then I think my first camera I got like SLR. It was a Leica. I remember someone bought me because I work with Leica now, a Deluxe 5. That was a birthday gift, I think, when I was 20. So that was actually the one I was really first like loving. Now the quality of the Deluxe 5 is like the iPhone's far superior to the quality of that camera because it's old technology. But it's a great camera.
Yeah.
I need to find it. But that was one where I started like, okay, I really enjoy.
You'll probably really like the way it renders now, because I'm into like those early digital cameras that have like a 9 or 12 megapixel sensor, and it take like 25 megabyte cards and you can shoot like 30 pictures, 50 pictures or whatever. Like,
it's like so slow.
Yeah.
But they've got I remember the Leica has like great built-in profiles on their cameras, and the Deluxe 5, it had this black and white, which essentially like now I think Greg Williams has his own like black and white preset with Leica. But I'm looking at it, and it looks similar to that, and it's like a Tri-X. To me, it looks like a Kodak Tri-X kind of replica, digital replica.
My favorite black and white film.
It's the best.
Yeah, best.
So I really had fun with that.
So I have like a very morbid reason for shooting film, and it's this idea that like when I die, something physically exists to show that like I actually took pictures.
Yeah.
Whereas like the second my credit card stops fucking charging for, Lightroom cloud service, like it all disappears. So it's like the physical idea that I did this thing and it exists is really my real impetus for shooting film. I know it's a little negative, but it's why I do it.
No, I'm totally aligned with that. It's a weird thing when you think, what inspired me was looking at a lot of the photographers I was looking at that moment when I was, say, 19 to 20, had passed away. So it was what they had left on this earth. They'd gone, and now I was looking at it like, and that inspired me motivated me to pursue it. And then I think that too, because there's, I shoot a lot of digital, but I also shoot a lot of film. And film, I have a huge passion with film that I can talk about a lot. And I do my own printing. I hand print, and it's of as tangible and time consuming as you can get in this day and age,
Yes.
And
do you have an enlarger in your apartment?
No.
Okay.
No, I wish.
So you rent out a space, yeah.
Yeah, I go to a place. So this is, if photographers watching, this is actually good information. So I took a walk coming to New York before I lived here. I was coming in for a few years, and every time I go to a new city, I'd always find it hard to find like my right lab. And my right darkroom to print at.
Yep.
Even in London now, and shout out to Rapid Eye. It took me a while. Now I print Rapid Eye is like my family. It's a communal darkroom that
awesome.
All are like my kind of photography peers and people I really look up to. They're all there, and that got me started on a journey. But then when I was in LA, still haven't really found the hand printing place because it's not as big a thing there. It's definitely a bigger thing in Europe and a bit bigger here. And then here, I was going out to a place in Brooklyn, and I won't say the name, but there was just like problems a lot. So eventually, I found somewhere called hold on, let me get the name right. My Color Lab, and it's Gerard, My Color Lab. He says it's the oldest color darkroom in America.
Wow.
Because he said it's been there since the 70s. He bought it in 2001. But he doesn't really advertise. He's not really into Instagram, and I love that. And his
same.
He's focusing more on in there. They also have like large format digital printers. So there's a lot of people printing for exhibitions.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's doing that, but the darkrooms are so well kept, and there's 10 of them, black and white rooms, and then like maybe 8 or 9 color rooms, and they're just and dark rooms. It's all about like it's a lot to manage. It's old machinery, a lot of chemicals. That it's expensive to run. So they really have to get people that really understand that and know what they're doing, and you have to do the work of like cleaning the chemicals, like making sure the rollers are clean, because otherwise your prints can come through and you can have like faint lines through them.
Yeah.
And then and I was kind of a lot of other labs I accept that a bit, but then I was like, man, all this money and you're putting all this time in, and it's not perfect.
The quality sucks. Yeah.
So shout out to my color lab is on 27th Street in Manhattan, and I think Park. Mm-hmm. And they're amazing, and you can pay like it's $15 an hour to rent
That's
a room.
not bad.
So it's good, because I was like, there isn't a communal lab in Manhattan. You can pay other people to print for you. But
yes.
I never, paying people to print for me, I could never really align with a printer. And there's amazing expert printers out there, but from what would be in my head for someone else to understand that and then print it, it's quite a hard thing to do.
Yeah, because you have a very specific look and feel in your mind. Yeah.
And I think you can do that over time with a printer. If you're working with a printer over time, they really align with how you want everything to look. But it never worked for me, so I was like, I'm going to do it myself, and I'm still doing it myself. And then I think if I'm really in a rush, I'll get someone to print. But
I give you a lot of credit for that, because so I use Nice Film Club out of Brooklyn. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
They're great. I love them. They develop and scan all my work, and I really like the process of dealing with them. I think they're great. I don't have the bandwidth to develop my own film. Sure, can I do it? Yes. Do I have the space to do it? Probably. Do I have the patience to do it and not fuck it up? Absolutely not. Yeah. And it's like there's always this big debate as to whether you're really a film photographer if you're not developing your own film. And I just think
that's interesting. I don't agree with that.
Oh, I totally I don't agree either. At the end of the day, I think the intention for shooting is much more important than whether you've got a stockpile of chemicals in your 600 square foot apartment.
It's not the healthiest thing in the world either.
Yeah, right, exactly. So there's a debate ad nauseum on the internet about whether you're a real film photographer, you don't develop your own film, and I don't subscribe to that theory. I'm curious. So obviously, film's been a mainstay in your career since you were a kid. Is there any moment in your working life when, whether it was in the UK or when you came over to Los Angeles, where the process of shooting film really locked you into a specific job, whether your look and feel that's maybe more analog versus some of your contemporaries? Is there anything that sticks out, from an early on perspective?
Yeah, and it's funny. So I did have all that, introduction into photography with film, but it's funny, the first camera when I started shooting professionally was a digital. So then I was doing music for a long time. So I was using digital for the first, 4 or 5 years. And I was like, film, and this is why I try and help other photographers now, because I love to share knowledge and information. It was a bit scary to me. So I was taking it on a professional sense of I was like, medium format's really scary. And even 35, I was like, I'm just going to mess everything up. And,
I know.
It's going to be too hard.
Yeah.
So I was digital for a long time, and then slowly started to bring in film. So I can't recall what was my first film camera, but most people start with the Canon, college, the Canon AE1.
AE1, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I think it was maybe a point and shoot.
I had a Nikon FM2 or F2. It was my dad's camera, and I just took it from him and didn't tell him. It was in the garage. He was not using it.
That's a great camera.
Yeah.
I had that. I had one as well. Actually, bought one in Egypt.
Wow.
And from a film lab in Egypt. It was cool. There's a film camera shop in Egypt, and they had a really beaten up that camera. I bought it. I sold it, unfortunately. But the great camera and a huge viewfinder, which I think is rare on a 35 millimeter camera. That's
Prism is massive.
Why I struggle. I don't love rangefinders, but the viewfinder is always small, and I love that on the Nikon. It's you can just see everything. It's so nice.
As a person who wears glasses, sometimes it's difficult with a rangefinder to make sure that I'm nailing focus. So it's probably one of the sole reasons why I don't shoot with a digital M. Although oh God, this is gonna take such a fucking tangent. I want to go back to what we were saying.
So what was I saying? So then, okay, digital for a long time. Then started to bring in film, but I knew there was something missing. That was the printing, the hand printing. So when I always pay to get film and rolls developed, because I agree with you. It's I've never developed a roll myself, but I've tried scanning myself. And I could never get the scans to look like they could in the lab. And I thought, I'll just pay as an expert to do it. You can do it in a day. It takes me so much time. But then the printing, the hand printing is what I really got into, because I was at the beginning was getting my scans back, and I don't like working from scans. So I was yeah, struggling with the scans a bit, because I was finding it hard to edit them as opposed to like editing digital. And then the pandemic happened, and in the pandemic, I thought one of many kind of pivotal moments for me during the pandemic, but one was I was like, I'm going to take this time to really nail and understand film. I'm going to make loads of mistakes,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to go out, and it's going to, you know, and I had fortunately, I had a job that I was doing like remotely that gave me some income during the pandemic. So I was like, well, you know, I'm not going out, so I'm going to spend all this money, and I'm going to buy film, and I'm just going to go out into the streets and shoot what I can, you know.
Fuck
and that's
yeah.
what I did. And I had bought a medium format camera, which is a Mamiya Mamiya Pro 7.2.
Yeah.
And then that, you know, because that is like, I think the medium format is daunting at first.
For
now
sure.
I'm like, it's just so simple. You know, now I'm like, it's
totally
like,
agree.
Yeah, and yeah, so just went out onto the streets, and then I was like shooting, you know, it's something I'm trying to bring back into my life now, but I was like just walking the streets and going up to people and like getting to know them, and having a conversation, you know, with, could be a lady who's homeless, and saying, you know, like, how's this affecting you, and getting to know them on a human level, and then
I love that.
taking some portraits, you know. And then, yeah, having lots of disasters, like, oh, this didn't work, and this worked.
Oh, so many disasters.
Yeah.
It's funny, I shot street with a buddy of mine, Dean, on Memorial Day. We went out to Coney Island and then Washington Square Park, and I hadn't shot street probably in a year, and I'm so blown away with how great the photos came out.
Oh, great.
And I was like, Jesus, like, why am I not doing this more?
Yeah.
And I said to my buddy Dean, I was like, dude, listen, I have imposter syndrome like any photographer does. I was like, these are good, right? Like, it's not just me that like thinks these are good. He's like, no, man, like, they're good. And I was like, it really reignited my love for street photography, because like I kind of started, I had a job in the beginning of the pandemic when I started this job, literally March 9th of 2020. And I bought my first Leica. I bought an M6. And I was commuting into the city towards the tail end of the, you know, the lockdowns and whatnot. And I was just taking pictures on my M6. And then when I lost my job, I got a really nice severance package, and I went on a big road trip, and I just shot film the whole time. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. Like, you know, this is my opportunity now.
Yeah.
I can like really jump in and try. And it's something that like I regret not doing more, because there's just something very meditative about street photography, and the tangential sort of connection with the, you know, I shot it on Memorial Day on the Hasselblad. And
you on like a 503?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, CM, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's the best. I mean, it's like that shutter, mirror, slap, is the greatest sound on earth. There's nothing better.
It is.
And I own another medium format. I bought a Mamiya 645 AFD, and you know, more for portrait work. And you know, it's like I keep one at my house if in case I go out and do stuff, and I keep the Hasselblad in studio for portraiture here. And there's no better feeling than shooting that camera. It's the best.
Yeah, it's the best. And you know, the Hasselblad as well. It's I have a lot of cameras out, and the Hasselblad I always say to be is my favorite. The mechanical, you know, the design, the engineering, the ergonomics. And the fact is fully mechanical, which is annoying when you're trying. I was on a shoot the other day, and like the sync cable wasn't working, you know, because you have
to
like,
really hold it in.
You got to really hold it in, and it was like dark, and the subject, you know, we didn't have a lot of time, and yeah, so that was frustrating. But I'm like, you know, I like to travel, and I do a lot of travel and work abroad a lot, and that's like a medium format camera you can take with you.
Yeah.
And if something's wrong with it, it's like one of 5 things, and you can always figure it out.
Yep.
Whereas you have like the Mamiya like 7 Pro 2, something's wrong with it, you've no idea.
It's
really hard, you know.
Yeah.
And even I've taken cameras like that to repair centers, and they're still like, well, we don't know fully, you know. But the Hasselblad, I'm like, this thing can last 100 years and be fine.
I hope it does.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I hope it will never leave my collection. I like we were talking about earlier, I buy and sell gear all the time. Like, I think this is what I need for, you know, this job, or this is what I need for this process. And then I just find it sitting on a shelf, and I'm like very not connected to gear the way I used to be. Because I used to think I always need the latest and greatest. And I think photographers, when they're starting out, can get caught in that trap of, you know, I started with the 5D Mark IV, and then I quickly moved into mirrorless, and then like it's like, you know, it's chasing gear.
Yeah, you don't, do you?
No.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just like, I realize that now. I'm not into like cameras for a lot of people, I think. Some people are into cameras sort of for aesthetics as well, you know, like, you know, and that's a nice thing. It's like, collectibles and aesthetics. And I'm like, that's great, but I'm more into just like getting the functionality out of that camera and what about how much am I going to use it. And like you said before, you know, it's like if it's sitting on your shelf for 2 years and you don't use it, then, you know, maybe
it's a lot of
time
money
for it to move on.
Yeah. I'm curious, early on in your career, was there like so like for me, I'm still sort of, I've had moments where I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm doing this. And it's like a pinch me moment. It's not like, you know, the venue in which I would like to be playing in, but we're getting there, right? We're early on. Do you have like a pinch me moment from like the early on in your career where you're like, what the fuck, how am I doing this?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, there was quite a few. Because I think actually when I started doing it and I started shooting and I was like, oh, okay. And then it was like feedback from others. You know, I needed that like validation of like, oh, this is really good. We really like this. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. And that inspired me to push harder, do more and do more. And I'm quite obsessive in nature. I'm like Virgo is my, you know, so it's part of
typical.
Typical Virgo. As my girlfriend would say, neurotic. So, you know, just went all in. And then I think things, fortunately and gratefully, happened quite quickly. And I got a lot of opportunities to travel and things. And and I think the one that I remember, which I'm trying to think of other examples, but I remember I did the Dixie Chicks when I was doing music, and this was really early on. And they came to me and said, we want you to shoot our tour, our merchandise line and our tour program. But we want to do it, because the story with them is they like had this kind of political issue, which, if you know about this,
with Bush, right?
With Bush, right? And so they were like, they're the biggest selling female group in America of all time.
Oh, really?
As a group, yeah.
Wow.
I think so. Female band, biggest selling of all time.
That's impressive.
And then their career got derailed during
Bush's presidency.
Because they said George Bush is not our president.
Yeah.
Or something. It was something, as if you look at it now, you think, wow, people say kinds of crazy things in the media, and then all they said is George Bush is not our president. And it was like, okay, career is over. You know, I was like, well, things have really changed.
We've heard a lot worse lately.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what a simpler time, huh? In like 2000, 2008.
Certainly was.
So, you know, that happened, and then they went on hiatus for a long time. And when they did their reunion, the manager got in touch with me, and he said, you know, we're doing the first shows they've done in, I don't know, it's 15 years or something, and it's at the O2 Arena, which is like the main arena in London, and we'd like you to be there for 2 days, and then they're going to rehearse, and you're gonna like get up on a ladder, and you're going to photograph them rehearsing, and they're like performing for you. It was kind of like quite interesting, and then we're going to use those shots in their tour program.
Sweet.
And, so that was doing that, and then I think that the moment was when they were all so nice to me, and I went backstage, and they had they'd set up an office, like a room for me in an office, and it had like my name on the door. So that was the first. That was the first moment. I was like, oh wow, okay.
You take a picture of that with like your cell phone. You're like, oh,
I still have it actually. I ripped
you took it?
Yeah, I took it because and that was like, because I always remember that. It really resonated with me. I was like, and then the imposter syndrome thing. I was thinking like, wow, I don't deserve this. You know,
ooh. What made you think that?
I don't know. Just because I hadn't done it that long at that point. I think, you know, I was only a couple of years in. So I was like 2 years in, and I was like, wow, it was a lot of pressure. And then there was all of that going into it, like, okay, I could mess this up, you know, and it's like a big thing. It's a huge thing. And then, you know, that won't be good by any means. And then that was the other thing that happened. So I really went all in, you know, gave it my all in every angle and everywhere I could. And the manager, I remember he said, like, okay, the girls, you know, they're very particular with how they look, and they haven't been on stage for a while. So like, that was the other thing. There was a lot of like all these kind of like, even though you're the official photographer, you can't stand there, you can't stand there, you can't stand there, you can't shoot up. So I was like, okay. And again, I took a punt, and I think it's always good. I always like to try and talk to people face to face as I'm going to talk to them. And he took me into the dressing room. He was like, yeah, but they're going to say no. And I said, hi, like, my name's Oliver, and I'm photographing tonight. And I said, look, I really think I should be in the photo pit, because it's going to be hard if I'm shooting the whole show from the sound desk back in the middle of the arena.
Too far, yeah.
You know, and it's too far to, you know, and we need some sort of dynamic shots and a different variation of shots. And they were like, you know, we're not going to like those angles. We're just going to disapprove them. And I was like, well, I'm your only photographer, and the pictures are for you. So you could, you know, if you don't like them, don't use them, please. And they were like, okay. And then I said, wouldn't it be nice to do a shot which is obviously very common now, but I was like, what a shot. At the end of the show, I come on stage and you turn around and we get the whole arena. And they were like, okay, but they didn't sort of really want to do it. So they took my lead, and then edited all the photos. I actually remember shooting, because I was like shooting up, and I had this a Nikon, which is a great lens, a 16-24. So it's like the heaviest lens you've ever seen.
Big front element. Yeah.
It's expensive, big, like the barrel's like this, and but it's distorted, right? So if you flip it on its side, portrait mode, it's like stretching.
Oh, cool.
So there's distortion either way.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I was like, because it's a really high stage in the O2. And they're on stage and they were quite conscious, so I kind of flipped it this way, and it was like slight distortion, but the pictures look good, and then I was like, okay, so I put everything in a PDF, and then the manager at the time, the manager was like, I'm gonna present it to them on when they're on their jet flying home. So then he did that, and then he like sent me, as they each sent a note to him, he like forwarded it to me of like how happy they were, and like one of them said, whatever that wide lens he's using that makes us look so like they were so happy. So I was like, okay, good. So that gave me a lot of confidence, actually, to like really follow instinct and intuition. If I think I know something's right, like go for it.
I like
take
that.
the risk.
I like that. So it's a great lesson to learn, is like when you can trust yourself, because that will just like be ingrained into you. Like, I've done this before. I could trust myself to know that I could do this. And then the next time you're presented with the opportunity to do something and someone's not feeling it, be like, listen, I know I can deliver this for you. Give me a shot. If you don't like it, don't fucking use it. That's fine. Yeah. And that's pretty great. I still struggle with that a little bit. I mean, is that something that crops up ever now, or do you have self-doubt still? Or
yeah. I mean, so I was, career-wise, I did music a lot for a long time, right? Then I kind of fell out of massive, I'm back in love with it, but I fell out of love with the music industry.
Justifiably so.
And various reasons, and I was like, also creatively, I was like, this was another pandemic moment. So when I went off on my own little like self-discovery with film, I was also like, and I always loved, the photographers I love are the historical photographers, like Mary Ellen Mark, and Jim Marshall say on the music side, but like Mary Ellen Mark as documentarian, or Robert Frank, and I look at work like that, and I think also with what you said about work existing after we are not here physically, I was thinking like, I want to create work, and it doesn't have to be, everyone in music is obsessed with like who the talent is, who the celebrity is.
Sure.
You can get so wrapped up in all of that, and in the end I was like, this isn't it for me. It's not, I want something that is more of a creative outlet, and I want something that I can be really stand as an artist, in exhibitions and, in art galleries. And like, it's funny, now I'm in New York, so I never thought I'd be here.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, New York and all that. And so then I had this moment, that's why I started shooting street photography. And then I was like, I wanted to go into fashion portraiture and more commercial endeavors, like you do. And that was something as well, because it was like a new industry, and I kind of got to quite a good place in music, and I was like, okay, this is a whole other thing, and they don't.
It's scary.
They don't cross over that much. So It's funny. I was talking to an old agent, and it's a funny thing. If you've got like this big kind of music catalog, the fashion clients, they don't really want to see it. It's kind of like, they were like, we'll hide that. You know? So I was like, so it was like this kind of like, I've done really well, and I've done all these things, and now I'm going to start in this new industry from the bottom.
Yep.
And I've got to like hide all of this stuff that I've done and pretend it didn't happen. So it's like really crazy. And even on my Instagram now, I used to, there's so much stuff archived because it was all my old music stuff. And I look back and I forgot about it. And I go back and look at it. I'm like, oh wow, I did that. That's actually pretty good.
I do that now all the time, because I've done the same thing, archiving a lot of stuff. It's so lame that the breadth of our work can't live to appease the potential clientele.
Yeah.
Like, the work that you're hiring me for is the same guy who shoots concerts or sports or street photography.
Yeah.
You're hiring me because of something that I can deliver. That doesn't matter whether it's in studio portraiture or on the street of Manhattan. It's me, right? You're investing in me. I shouldn't have to hide the music stuff that I love because it's not applicable to the fashion stuff. I know. It sucks.
It does. And again, it's kind of like, we can get in our own heads, right? So it's like, this is what, someone in the industry told me. And I think it, it can be true to a good degree. But But also now I'm on the understanding, I've come to this understanding with myself, that, being real and true to yourself is also magnetic and resonating with a lot of people. And this is, you can go into energetics, but
Love that.
I'm more on that page now. Whereas like, I'm going to be unapologetic unapologetically me, and if that's work, if I'm going to go and shoot. I still have a bit of trauma with the music thing, but like, I'm trying to just like not get into that because, so I was there in music, and then when I went into fashion and further, I kind of got up the ladder in fashion. I saw people even have more anxiety in the fashion industry of like how, well, I've got to be in this lane, and I've got to, to get to this place, and chasing this other person to get here, I got to do this, and it's like, and I feel like you can stifle yourself as a creative because you're not really shooting what you want to shoot.
Yeah.
You're chasing this thing, you're chasing your tail. So I'm kind of in that. I'm kind of trying to, and I think it's a work in progress, but coming back to like my true self. What do I truly want to do? And then there's like things that happen now in New York, like universal things, synchronicities that give me like a validation and a confirmation that I'm on the right path. And I'm like, I'll follow my gut and my instinct to go down somewhere. And it's happened where other people are like, why are you doing that? That's crazy. Like you're wasting money, time. And then something happens that shows me from the universe that was right, and you are aligned.
Listen, I am the firmest believer of manifestation, of universal synchronicities, whatever you want to say. We are not having this conversation without a confluence of calamities, successes, failures, whatever you want to say. We're not sitting here were it not for the last 5 years of my life. I'm a firm believer of that. The duality of that being, if that I didn't believe that we could be sitting here, we wouldn't be, right? So there's a point in your career where you have to manifest your own reality and your own destiny. If you don't believe that you could shoot the cover of Vogue, you will never shoot the cover of Vogue.
That's very true.
If you don't stop to invest the energy and belief to yourself that you could do something, you never will. How could you? If you don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it.
That's the truth. Yeah, I mean that is how manifestation works. And as I get older, I know everyone says like everybody, oh, do you're at this age now? Do you like it? I'm actually, yes, I do, because I'm wiser and I know more than I did. I don't like the person I was when I was 30. I don't dislike him, but I just.
He was a fool.
I wasn't looking in a
speaking for myself.
Life, in a perspective I am now. So I love learning, growing, bettering myself, and
love that
mind, body, spirit, all of that.
One of the major themes and sort of ideas of this podcast is I'm 39. Could 25-year-old John have lived and learned the lessons of 35-year-old John at an earlier point? And unequivocally, the answer is no, right? Like it takes life experience for you to learn and grow. And were it not for that 10-year period, I'm not sitting here. So it's like for me to be anything other than full of gratitude and excitement about turning 40, which, God, that's fucking terrifying, right? But now I have this tool belt of lessons and this sort of like self-confidence that I didn't have 15 years ago that I could never have taken the chances that I'm doing now.
Exactly.
It's one of those great joys in life. It's like, what's the expression? Like youth is wasted on the young or whatever it is, something like that. And it's true. Like the hubris of youth is great because you think you could do everything, but you don't try. And then now I'm in a position where I'm going to be 40. It's like, why the fuck not? If not now, then when?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And 40 is still, it's very young.
Listen, I think so.
It is.
It depends on how my back's feeling, but like more, it's like some days great, some days okay. Maybe a couple Advil.
Yoga.
You're right. Yeah, no, I should. I was gonna say, so you had this like monumental success with the Dixie Chicks, which is like that's a pretty monumental moment in music.
Yeah.
When you start looking at the transition that you're making now into fashion, like there's obviously daunting challenges that lie ahead of you, and like what do you do? Like what tools are in your tool belt that will help you like get the the clients that you want, the accolades that you're looking for? Like what do you have in you that is the belief and the manifestation of your next chapter?
Well. It's funny because I was with a photographer, friend the other night, and I was showing him around New York. He wants to move here, so he was showing me around. And we've been Instagram friends for a while, and he was like asking me about my career. And I think like if this is the wrong advice podcast, this might be the wrong advice. But
it's a pun.
But yeah, it's just it's very different because he's a great commercial photographer, a great fashion photographer, but listening to him talk, it's very like everything he's doing. It's nothing wrong with that. It's very systematic. I now am a big. I had a kind of moment in 2019 where there was like kind of let's say spiritual awakening, but there was a moment. I was always been curious about many things, and it was actually like podcasts, listening to podcasts for many years. Got me a lot of information and led me down paths to people that really influenced my life in terms of like
love that
spiritual beliefs and manifestation, consciousness, inner growth, all of those sort of things. And I've tried to like accumulate the two together, you know, as I grow, and I think it really works. It really does. And I have a lot of, since I was young, I've had a lot of synchronicities happen in my life, and I never knew what they were for a long time. I was just like, oh, there's like, I'd be like thinking of something, and a bus would go past with the thing I'm thinking about written on it. You know, that's I'm like, well, that's really, you know, and I tell someone and they wouldn't believe me, and I'd be like, am I going crazy? You know, so it's synchronicities, and then I got an understanding of what the synchronicities are, which is like universal signs and clues that you're on the right path, and you need to understand how to follow them and what they mean, and you know, sometimes it could be very random. It doesn't have to necessarily be that direct, blatant. Yeah, it's not. You know, it's fun, and I would follow them, and I actually try and follow a path of alignment and with threads of and I try and incorporate this into my work, and I'll be like led down a path. I want to follow this because
absolutely
I feel resonated. You know, I feel like I really want to work with this brand for whatever reason, and I mean it's pretty crazy. Like I'll say last night, for example, I won't say who it is, but there's a brand I really want to work with, and I have a vision board where I'll put, you know, I'll like pin things on it and put different pictures of people. But there's a brand I really want to work with, and I've been thinking about it a lot and manifesting it. And then I got introduced to someone at a party last night, and it's like someone who works with that brand, you know. And there was like the creative director for that brand, and now we're going out tonight.
Isn't that just like, oh, fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing, you know. So then I'm like, okay, this is on the right path, and then I don't get worried, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of friends of mine and photographers that, you know, everyone's sort of worrying. I guess you know, financially,
for sure,
that's a part of the society and life we live in, right? And it's like we could just be these like free flowing. You know, like I went to the Robert Frank exhibition at the MoMA.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, you know, it looks like he didn't die with much money. I think is he still alive?
No, he's dead.
He passed.
Yeah.
But then I was like, it was if it's still going, you have to go and see it. But there's all these different evolutions in his career, but there's like one point, and he's like in this house in like, I think it's upstate New York with his wife, and they're both just like taking pictures of things in the house, and there's like,
and she's an artist, right?
Washing line,
yeah.
And it's just like, and he's living this like true artist life, and it's like the most amazing work.
Goals.
And I was like, wow, I wish I could just live an artist life like that. You know, it's like
next chapter.
Yeah, the next chapter.
Yeah.
But you know, we get tied into all the worries about society, and I think, you know, and that's another thing. I have all these spiritual belief, and I'd say like a toolkit. I'd say like a conscious toolkit, and I'll work with that, and it really works. And it also, like recently, I've given up alcohol.
Oh, love that.
And that again, it's energetically like everything's heightened again. And I knew I had to do it for a long time, and I was like stuck in this wheel of like, I'm in New York. You got to go to events every night. You got to meet people. And I thought I needed a drink to be sociable. And then I realized, like, after 2 weeks not drinking, which was hard, then I stopped, and I was like, actually, I'm a better person. You know, better, like, I'm better socially.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sharper. I know when to leave. I can get up in the morning. I'm totally clear. Then I can work on my morning routine. I can get more done. I've got more energy.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Well, it's easy to use it as a crutch.
Yeah, right.
And it's what a lot of people do, you know.
Yeah.
It calms the nerves.
Yeah.
You know, it's a reason why it becomes a problem for people, because it tends to lubricate situations.
Yeah.
And not always for the best.
No. Yeah, and you know, I'm British, so it's like we culturally, there's a lot of alcohol consumed. So there's the conscious toolkit, but then there is like also at the moment it's like I'm working on building stronger habits, and then habits of like the systematic industry things of work, of like always, you know, meeting someone, always following up, always, you know, I always try and present myself as a good person, and I always try and show up as my true and real self. I always try and stand true to that, because I think it's funny. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I was talking to another photographer, and we were talking about an artist, and I said, well, it was like he's not like how he is on stage in real life. And my friend said to me, well, like none of us are. Like we're all like, you know, we all try and put on a front. And I was like, I don't do that. I try not to. I try not to do that. So I used to be the true me. You know?
I used to. I mean, I think the 25-year-old, 30-year-old John didn't have the confidence in who he was, so he was always projecting someone else. I think that's normal.
I think it's okay too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfectly, Yeah, it's perfectly normal, and I probably did too.
Yeah, I think the mindset of that growing the comfortability in yourself to be your true authentic self is another thing that opens up doorways and pathways to career opportunities. Because I think without that belief in who the person I am and not trying to be someone else, you don't get those opportunities because you're like holding yourself back from, you know, expression artistically, expression like authentically, like all these things that would like, you know, inhibit you from being yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, the true essence of you, and it goes back to like, I always feel for me, it's the heart, you know, and it's like getting and things. I don't know where am I going with this? So like alcohol and, you know, drugs, other things in society, stress, not sleeping enough, all the kind of basic things interfere with that, you know, and you know, interfere with that resonance. But I feel, yeah, truly tapping into yourself, everything opens up and it works wonders. And if you think of us as radio antennas, you know, we have a frequency, a magnetic field that's, you know, it's proven physics, and we have a field, and it's like once your frequency is aligned and at the most magnetic it can be, then you attract. That's the law of attraction, and then you attract what? It's almost like manifestation becomes more.
That's why you meet a creative director for a brand that you want.
I know, and that gave me a little like, okay, you know, that was those little confirmations. Like it's fine, and you know, it's again like with music. I think I was quite fortunate with fashion because I started. And it was in the pandemic, and I remember I had to quarantine in Mexico City before I could get into the US from England. And
weird.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
so random.
And it was also like, what a tough thing to do. Yeah, you know? Right. I was like, oh, you know, like we have to go to Mexico City for 2 weeks.
Darn.
Yeah, I was like, and you know, and it was like, yeah, quarantine, and it wasn't like we were confined to the hotel. We were allowed to go outside.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we were in a nice hotel. I was like, this is amazing. I'd never been. I was like, this is amazing. And then I was like, okay, so I'm going to spend this time I'd never done a fashion test shoot.
Oh, wow.
2020. So I was like, okay. So then I was like, messaging like models, stylists, you know, put together amazing, because no one was working. It was an amazing team, like the best style. Everyone would, and we were just like shot all this great stuff at my hotel, these great test shoots. And that inspired me as well. I was like, wow, it's like, I can do this. You know?
Yeah.
It's just the confidence and motivation to pursue it, you know?
It goes back to if you don't believe that you can do it, nobody else will. Yeah. And like for a long time, like the fake it till you make it mentality serves itself a little bit. But then like at some point push comes to shove and you have to actually believe and deliver on those beliefs. Yeah. When you like are looking at the stuff creatively that you want to do in the future, you know, you mentioned this brand that you just met the creative director for, all this stuff. How do you pick and choose the work that you want to do? Like, what is it about a particular project or brand or whatever that will resonate with you and make you want to work with them or for them?
Yeah. Okay. That's something I think about a lot. So one of the things I am doing, and I want to go further into, is filmmaking and eventually feature-length films. But at the moment, the focus is documentaries. And I'm really interested in stories. I'm really interested in the human condition, in consciousness, but also real stories of people that maybe aren't told that much, or there's not like a spotlight given on that. But it's very interesting, and I think I follow my own interests. I'm really into history. One of the things I did when actually Kieran, who connected us, when she first got in touch with me, we were talking a lot, and she asked me to be an ambassador for the SL3, for the Leica SL3, and I was thinking as a spiritual teacher that I work with on and off, and we were in Egypt, and I was going to film something with him in Egypt, but I couldn't quite figure out like what was the story. Another thing that was what Kieran said to me was make it, you know, the story emotive and make it resonate with people and make it interesting. So it was hard, and also in Egypt it can be very hard with cameras. And it's got work. I've been there a lot. Like now it's harder than ever. So going into the ancient sites with an SL3 or something like an SLR, they don't like it. So yeah, but on that particular trip, we couldn't even take our phones in. Actually, we went to the Sphinx and to various temples around Cairo, and they were like, not even a phone picture allowed. So I was like, well, this is the universe telling me not to do this.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I can't physically do it. So so then I went back to the drawing board, and I was like, I want to do something, because I'm doing a lot of stuff within fashion and commercial world, but I want to do something that incorporates fashion, but also is a real story and has as a soul and maybe a story that people don't get to see. And my girlfriend's mother is involved in the fashion industry, and she is really involved with. She's American, but she's Italian American, and she's really involved with Native American and indigenous peoples of America. And she had an ex-partner called John Trudell, who was like he's from South Dakota. He was an indigenous pioneer and figure, and started the Native American movement, and he took over Alcatraz in the 60s, and he was like fighting the FBI. He's sadly passed now. He was the first, I think he was the first person, his partner was Russell Means, and his son is now an actor, Tatanka Means. And they were like a duo of activists, but very charismatic, could go and talk, and he was friends with Val Kilmer, he was friends with Jim Morrison, and he was like a poet, he was a singer, he was a musician, so he was like, he was actually the FBI's most wanted and dangerous man in the 60s, because he could talk to people and resonate with them, and as like a stately
like a culty thing,
yeah. But for like, the native people who never had that. So she, and he passed before I was here, and she told me a lot about him. I watched his documentary, found it very inspiring, and wanted to learn more about indigenous people of America and Native Americans, and being from England. It's not something we really taught in history class, so it was like we talk a lot about. It's like I said to my girlfriend, I can tell you anything about World War II, but we don't. It's funny because you're just giving like your own algorithm. It's like here's this European perspective. Yeah. So I come here and I'm always wanting to learn about other cultures. So I'm like, well, I'm here now, so I really want to learn about this. So she put on a fashion show, a fashion week out on a reservation in California, in a hotel and casino called the Yarmouth, and we were there for a week. And there was all these indigenous Native American designers, so maybe 10 designers. Sweet. And models and designers, and we lived there and existed there together, and I was the photographer. And it was the most beautiful thing, because it was like I was connecting with these people who were like explaining like, okay, this is from my lineage that goes back like hundreds of thousands of years of like weaving, of hand weaving. And then I was like, well, what do these symbols mean? Well, it's related to the equinoxes or the solstices or the sun and the moon. And these are my tribes. This is a language that doesn't exist. That was my tribe. So everything had just such a story and such depth and integrity. I was like, wow, this is a side of like fashion, because you can, and I love the fashion industry, but it can get a bit soulless, just like music, or anything. If you go too far in one corporate direction. So I was like, wow, this is something. It's like I really want to work within this and tell stories that highlight these designers. And now they're getting more of a spotlight. There's a friend of ours, Christian Allaire, who's an indigenous writer for Vogue, who's just released a big book, and Anna Wintour is like really championing him.
Wow,
and
love that.
And there's like there's indigenous designers in a Met Museum now. Mm-hmm. So for my Leica video, I did a story where we went to the Dene Reservation in New Mexico, and
wait, I saw this.
You saw this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So it was,
and I was actually pretty scared, because again, this is the thing. I went into that like I was following like an instinct, and I had like 4 ways to go, and I went the most difficult, because I was like, I could go this way, it's easy, this, and I was like, I don't know why I need to go to New Mexico and do this story this way, but I went into it, I was like, wow, I only thought about this afterwards, because I had so much confidence in it. But I was like, well, if that didn't like pan out, if it didn't kind of translate properly, it wouldn't, it wouldn't have been great. It wouldn't have been great for me or for the brand. It didn't translate. So it was kind of like a risky thing to do for someone who was trying to learn about the culture, but also being, I'm white and from England, and then coming here, and then there's so much sensitivities and trauma, which I wasn't aware of. And I walked into that to the reservation. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm so naive, and I'm here to learn,
Oh, I love that.
And it really was a journey. It was a week, and I learned a lot. And I think we got a great short. It's it's an advertorial for the campaign for the SL3. So it wasn't just right. Still trying to sell a camera, but I was like, I want to do this that is something that just resonates. I didn't even mention my name. I just wanted to make it a spotlight on others. I tried not to talk too much about the camera. I was like, I just want a story that resonates with people. I'm like, wow, okay. And I think that's truly, and then brands nowadays, I think where I'm trying to go with my work with brands is like, let's tell a real story. Let's do something real. Let's do something with like soul and substance,
I think from a storytelling perspective, why those things resonate is because when you're telling an authentic story, it doesn't matter what you use to capture it. Mm-hmm. The story is what is important, right? Mm-hmm. So we've got this great tool. it's shown in every shot. We know what we're doing and all, right? But because we're telling something that matters and there's like an authentic, like real hard-hitting truth about the story, you can transcend beyond this being an advertisement for the SL3 because you're telling something that's important. I like that. I totally agree with you. How often do we see YouTube videos and content creators who are like, let me show you why this camera's great? And that's, don't get me wrong, those things are important.
It has its place, right?
It totally has its place when I want to learn about something, whether I want to buy something. But the transcendent moment of like utilizing the tool to tell a story, I think resonates more with me. I love that video.
Thank you for watching.
I bought an SL3 because of that video.
Yo, that's a Leica HQ watching this.
Yeah, no, I did buy an SL3.
Did you really?
I did.
Is that true?
It wasn't because of the video, but I did buy the camera and I did own the camera because
I'm pleased.
I mean, listen, I'm a sucker for a good advertisement. That wasn't an advertisement. Like, I wouldn't call that an advertisement, even though it very much is. But it's a story, and the truth in which you tell that story resonates beyond the tool, and I think that's very commendable. That goes sort of anti, the norm, which is pretty great.
Yeah, and I did. I mean, I watched before I did that. I watched the whole YouTube channel of every video, and it's just so. And again, that was like, wow. There's just like so many amazing, like Mary Ellen Mark. She did a video. She passed in 2015. She was all these legends: Bruce Gilden, Mary Ellen Mark, Bruce Davidson, and it's just, and then a contemporary, our contemporaries, and yeah, I was like, wow. But then I was just trying to tap in and do something like, what do I really want to do? What is true to me? And there was one other video that I saw. I'd love to remember the photographer's name. She is in Australia. She's now actually got her own series on National Geographic with Jimmy Chin. So you see that. So there's a series of like 3 photographers, and she's like just amazing, like landscape photographer, travel photographer with Jimmy Chin.
Is she? I think I saw. Was she did that show Photographer on Hulu? I think maybe. Yeah. She's like. Action
Ashley something.
And it's like action stuff. Like she did stuff for Red Bull and like a bunch of stuff like that. Skiing, things like that. Maybe. No,
I don't.
No? I'm thinking of someone else. I'm thinking of the show Photographer that was on
Hulu
or Disney Plus or something. And she was a Leica ambassador, so I don't know if we're talking about the same person.
Maybe
not.
Maybe we'll figure it out afterwards.
I'm gonna look it up the second we stop.
But, she did a video for Leica. I think it's for the SL1. It was a while ago, and she's traveling with her husband, and then they don't introduce themselves, and she's
different
just
person.
What's that?
She's unmarried. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just that was the one that resonated with me. So I was like, I didn't copy her, but I just took how the video made me feel in a way, and tried to like mimic some of that, and take my own take on it, and then doing that was like a moment of wow, like a pivotal light bulb moment of like, I want to just pursue more of this style of thing of like real stories, but then incorporate, and going back to your question, incorporate that with brands who I want to work with, but take it to them. And I think, this is like a whole other conversation, but like in a world where everything's going into AI, and I was speaking to someone about this last night, it's like that, this is going to happen so fast. It's all,
it's already
maybe by the time this podcast is out, we're going to be robots.
Yeah.
But no, it's going to happen really quickly. And then I was having a conversation like, so, like, what do you think's going to happen? Like, what's going to change? What's still going to be the same? And I said, well, I shoot a lot of digital, but I lean a lot into analog, so I'm going even more. I'm going to go more tangible.
Same.
Because I'm like, I can't make documentaries, because it can't. How's it going to do that, right? So, but it's going to be able to make films.
Yes.
Easily. And in photography, something intangibility, and we were looking at Mary Ellen Mark's work, and we look at those old pictures, and we were saying there's AI replicas of these like true, real, like photos of like street photography from the 60s or a counterculture, but it doesn't hit. It's like it just looks. It doesn't. I mean, I'm like it's probably going to catch up eventually, but so I'm trying to be like, how can I go more and more real? Because the stuff that's not. I think, the corporate side of things, there's already an AI modeling agency, which is scary, that like Zara are using to book jobs. And they look like human beings, just like it. Then there's going to be everything. It's just going to be doing entire campaigns probably quite soon. So I'm going on to more, how do we get more human, more real,
I love that.
And I'm like...
That resonates with me a lot. It really does. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I talked about this with my buddy Dean, because like in a world where we can we're very quickly going to be able to generate hyper realistic imagery of whatever we want.
Yeah.
The like authentic barrier ultimately becomes the creation, right? So for me, it's why I'm shooting more film than ever. It's why I shoot a ton of Polaroid. Hi Polaroid, I love you. Call me.
Please,
you know what I'm saying?
Please sponsor John.
But it's why I do these things, because the barrier is going to be disappearing to make something that looks exactly like it.
Yeah.
So I need to be creating with intention, and that tool, unfortunately, is, in my estimation, falling further and further from digital utilization. It's like, that's what I find myself. And it's like one of the reasons why I've been selling more gear lately. It's like, I don't need a $7,000 camera sitting on the shelf that I don't use. I'd rather spend that money on film and development and all those things that I think will be more impactful for my own desire to create.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And I think the other thing that is already happening and is going to happen more and more as we go into this digital world where we all become cyborgs, I think that will happen. Truly, but
or it already has.
Yeah,
we're just catching up to it.
Depends on your sort of perspective on it, but is real world experiences, real tangible world experiences, and within photography, it is an exhibition, you know, and that's the other part of me. Loves being in New York City. Is like, this is the city for exhibitions, and that's something like old me was like, I'm not going to get to New York City and do exhibitions. Like and actually my darkroom, it's quite inspiring being there because I'm hand printing, but there's all people like giant format printing for like something in the moment, like I don't know, like really, really big art galleries. So I'm like, yeah, it's all within reach. And I think those experiences, and going back to what you're doing with film, of like having tangible film, making tangible prints, and then displaying it, and people coming in for an event in person. That's, you know, AI isn't going to be able to do that. So
listen, I agree. If you see my apartment, anybody who has, I have way too much shit on the walls. But because we live in a physical world, like sure, there's going to be exciting things that happen with like Vision OS and like all these products and Ray-Ban Meta and all these things. It's going to be cool shit, right? But at the end of the day, like that stuff's going to come off, and I'm going to be living in a fucking real world place. And that place, I want to be surrounded by beautiful things, and that's photography and art. And you know, I buy a ton of shit, and I'm broke, but like I buy a ton of shit for my friends because I want to support them. But also, like, I want to digest that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. My whole life, I want to be surrounded by beautiful things. I have way too many fucking photo books, but I love them. I go through them all the time. I get caught up a lot of. We talked about this earlier, like measuring my success against someone else's in a career. Obviously, in such a win-loss visualization world like photography, like we see what people win and lose at, and our own wins and losses. When you've checked off boxes of like big accomplishments, like photographing the Dixie Chicks or Billy Bob Thornton or being a Leica ambassador, things that like people aspire to do, how do you frame your goals when you're looking forward? Because you've accomplished so much already in a short period of time. How do you then look to what the next phase is supposed to look like for you?
In the photography world, it's like I look at some photographers that I really look up to, who are like, again, like you said, like the things I've done, I see the things they've done. I'm like, okay, wow, you've done a major campaign for every single of the big luxury fashion houses, and you've done all these things, and you had giant exhibitions in all the top museums all over the world. But then it's like you get to there, then it's the same thing as, say, with the billionaire, because then the people on top of you are even more successful and even doing even bigger things, and you're never
new level, new devil.
It's never enough, right? I find that the pressure gets higher as you travel up. It's almost at the lower level, it's easier, and it's maybe that's a testament to why there's like a lot of unhappy celebrities. Or so,
For sure.
It's like the more sort of on paper success you got, the more the pressures are. And then I always find with photography as well, it's something I think about is like, it's like keep delivering pictures, but you always want them to be like better than the last one, and if you don't do that, you kind of
stagnate.
It upsets you.
Yeah. No, I relate to that quite.
So then
strongly.
It's like the pressures go. So I think for me, I try and not sit within that thought bubble. So I try and like go. I try and come from this perspective of like I want everyone else to do well. I want everyone else to win. Everyone around me, my friends, photography peers, people I don't particularly, they're not my best friends. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we don't see eye to eye, but I still want you to win.
Yeah. Your success doesn't preclude me from being successful.
Exactly. And I think, and then a lot of people, with photography as well, there's like a scarcity mindset a lot of the time.
For sure.
And then there's a very competitive mindset, and I always love to share information. It's been to my detriment before, but I'm always happy to connect to people. I'm like always connected. That's something I've done since I was a kid. It's always connecting people, joining the dots, and
Love that.
people have said to me a lot of like, wow, you really need to monetize this thing, and I'm like, no, and then and kind of giving people jobs, but a lot of people want to gatekeep opportunities, and I feel there's enough to go around. I'm like, I try and live within that, and I'm like, focus on the successes I've got in front of me, and not get too hung up on it. I think,
love that. I am a big proponent of your network is your net worth.
That's a good phrase. I haven't heard that before.
I mean, like, listen, as I've gotten older, I realize I have no makings or desires of being a billionaire. Like, that level of monetary wealth on paper seems fucking awesome. Yeah, duh. I want to fly private everywhere. Duh. Like, for sure. But it's not really what it's about. Like, for me, what I've realized is, like, I want to live a comfortable life that's creatively fulfilling, that stimulates me mentally, and that gives me infinite access of time with my friends and family. Because, like, in a commodification of society that we live in, the only thing that we really have that is really, really, truly, really, God, how do I say this? Like, the thing that matters most is, like, your time, right? Like, for me, it's like, when I think about what I give up, if it's like an hour of my day or 2 hours of my day or whatever, like, those are not coming back, right? And especially as you get older, you're much more acutely aware of how much time you have left. I think almost maybe to detriment for myself sometimes. I get fixated on this idea. Yeah, I mean, like, my legacy and the amount of time that I have left is always constantly in the back of my mind. There's like a genetic predisposition for men to constantly think that they're going to die young. It's genetically designed inside of our bodies and our minds from a procreation perspective. So you're meant to always think you're not doing well enough, you're not successful enough, you need to have kids, all these things.
The negative. Well, I know our minds, because it comes from like fight or flight as well, right? So it comes from our ancestors where we lived in caves, and you had to be on high alert because a big giant tiger could come in and eat you.
Right.
So you had to be like, so that fight or flight. So the mind is always shifting towards the negative and emergency more than positive. Is that related to that?
1,000%. They're intricately intertwined. And because of that, you're constantly like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not achieving enough. I also need to have 5 kids, like all these things, because it's just biologically ingrained in us. But now, as I've gotten older, I've realized I'm much more acutely interested in developing these relationships, these very intimate parasocial relationships with people that, like, I would love you to succeed in every way imaginable. And I don't...
Thank you. Likewise.
It's one of those situations where it's like, my network is my net worth. If you succeed, the possibility exists that something down the line that you're not right for, you'd be like, who I should call? I should call John and see if he could do that. I think everything I've done in the last 10 years of my life has been because of someone that I know. Like, this conversation is only happening because of the wonderful Kieran Karnani. That's the only reason. We didn't know each other.
Relationship comes first, right, over everything. And that's a good lesson in business too, right? Because people think they can go in and like, so I don't need to interrupt.
No,
but it's true, especially in a city like New York. I love New York because you can just connect with people so easily. I actually find it easier than LA for that. I thought LA was a bit more like West Coast, a bit more open, but New York, because I thought it was going to be hard, like people are harder edge,
Yeah.
But no, I love it here more, and then it is, the people I resonate with, and I'm just like, building relationships and friendships, and then things come out of that, and the synchronicities happen too, because then you'll be like, something comes up that you'll learn about
this
that
podcast
you didn't know about. This podcast with Kieran. I never thought I'd be sitting here and
in Jersey City. And
I love New Jersey. So
because it's the fucking best. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong.
This is it. I think I'm gonna have to come and work here.
Please feel free. We'd love to have you. But it's like one of those things where it's like, I think so much gets lost on checking boxes of your ambassadorship, of shooting this person, of shooting this campaign, this magazine, that we don't ask ourselves very often, like, is this serving me creatively? Is this serving me career-wise, the stuff that I want to be doing? How do you make sure that is the alignment that you're following?
Can you reframe that question one more time?
So, like, for instance, with the campaign that you did with Leica, centered around the Native Americans, obviously that aligns very strongly with your beliefs and your core value system. How do you make sure that the projects that you work on in the future are, like, similarly aligned and not like, hey, I'm taking this job because it pays really well?
Well, I think just to be clear, I still do take jobs that just because
sure.
it pays well, and
As you should.
I absolutely do that. I think I'd love to say, I'm just following this complete path of intention
totally
and
fair.
alignment, and to just to be honest and transparent with everyone that I try to do that. That's what I try to do. But then things come up like I've done. I don't particularly. I mean, okay. I want to, I want to be like full creative control out there, making stories, shooting like campaign work. But sometimes something comes up where it's like an event, and I have to, and it's X amount of money, and it's like a night's work, and I'll do, and I did like 3 or 4 times last week, in amongst like editorial jobs in a day, and it is a myriad of things. But then those things allow me money to then pursue
more creative
endeavors and the things I really want to do. And I think that's fine. I think it's not. I'm not that strict with it. I'm just it's how you frame it as well. I'm not. I think it's fine, and I think the more I'm still building what I'm doing. That's obviously a constant process, and going into that path of like where like the Leica video of trying to bridge the kind of real storytelling with brands, and I feel like there's big things in the future, but I'm still building towards it. So at this time, if I need to do something for money that I don't particularly want to do, that's fine.
Yeah, the only thing I want to do now is like birthday parties.
I'd do a birthday party if I like if they're like friends of
mine.
I
mean strangers.
Strangers.
Yeah,
I've never like. I don't think I've ever been paid to photograph a birthday party. I've just done it for friends.
Yeah. I got hired to do like a 30th birthday party, and I was just it was one of those things.
You didn't like it? Why not?
It just didn't resonate.
Yeah. I had the same thing with weddings.
I will never shoot a wedding.
You really?
Never.
Because this is an interesting thing with weddings, actually, because I've done weddings. Actually, my girlfriend and I met at a wedding.
Wow.
And I was a photographer.
That's fucking awesome.
That's a crazy story. But
I love
3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Sorry. And that was like, I knew the couple. It was like a celebrity wedding. Actually funny, related to the Beatles, actually, which is funny, because then that goes back to what brought me into photography. I never thought of that.
That's fucking
before.
Awesome.
So
was it your first wedding you shot?
That was the second. The other one I shot was like my friends from high school that got married. It was like 10 years ago, and I shot that back home where I'm from in South London. This one was in LA, and I was actually in LA doing another job, and then it was like 2 days before. They're like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And it was like 30 people. It was like very famous people there and stuff. And then I was like, just did it at the last minute. And again, that was actually something I was like, I'm not a wedding. I was in my head like at the time, I'm not a wedding photographer. And I was like, and I actually meditated, and I was like, should I do this or not? And it was like, it was kind of like at that point, I was sorry to hit Mike. I was doing meditations where I would try and like see if I'd rock either way would be yes or no. So like, forward is yes, like left is no. I just like a pendulum.
That's amazing.
And it was good. Yeah, I don't know. I should get back to that. It was like, this is how I'm going to make a decision on whether or not to do something. I'm going to I just come back.
Very scientific.
I just come back from Egypt, so I was really like into the
very scientific.
And yeah, exactly. And it was giving me a yes, so I did it. And it's crazy because actually that one event changed my life. That's actually the reason I'm in New York. That's everything. Met my girlfriend. She's from Manhattan. Moved here. I'm with her. All these synchronicities.
That's fucking crazy.
So, the pendulum, yes, no meditation.
My philosophy now from photography perspective is I typically don't say no to anything, because I like the idea that I'll be invited to this random wedding to photograph, and then I'll meet the love of my life or get introduced to someone. Like I think just like in general, I say yes to almost everything.
Yeah.
Not everything, but you know what I'm saying. Just leave myself open to the opportunity for the universe to provide me something fucking cool, and that's awesome. Also, like I think I'm now more comfortable in my tool shed of my skills as a photographer, that I know I can shoot everything and anything and put my own spin on it that would make it worthwhile.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I try and have the perspective like I'm an artist first, and I want to do whatever I do, I'm shooting it in my way, and that's what hopefully I would be hired for, or or how I would do it. But with the wedding thing, I did those weddings, and then I was like talking to because I've got some friends at home that transitioned from other industries like music, and now they're just full-time weddings, and they're like earning a lot of money and have like the 2 years in front of them booked of like everything's booked.
It's crazy.
Very successful, and like I'm like, wow, okay. So I was, and then it was suggested maybe you should try this in New York as like an extra like an extra bit of income. Like do an event or this and that, and I did. I just didn't. It didn't resonate with me. It didn't. Nothing against it. I love it.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this isn't my place.
Yeah.
Of where I'm meant to be, and I felt that, and then I was like, it's somewhere else. So it was good to know that, and I've like crossed it off now, and I'm at peace. If there's only friends want me to shoot their weddings, I would happily do that.
For sure.
But in terms of like doing it as like people I don't know, and this is my job.
I totally agree. Yeah. I think that's one of the great joys of getting older is like being acutely aware of like what is for me will find me, and I'll want to pursue it. Right. So it's not like I've reached this age of almost 40 and I'm still not sure of myself or sure of those decisions, but like now I trust my radar much more than I did, say 5 years ago, which is kind of nice. Yeah, it's good. There's a power in saying no as well sometimes, right? Because again, that's the photographers, creatives can just say you're freelance, you say yes to everything. Okay, that's money. There is a power in saying no, and I do feel like if there's something that truly doesn't align with you, you can say no, and then something bigger generally comes. I fundamentally agree with that. You have to have the belief, the mindset that like if I say no to this, it's for a reason. It's going to pave the way for something else that will be more aligned with what my beliefs are and what my desires are, and be better serving for me. Yeah. In a lot of ways, that's how these conversations like this happens. Yeah. Shit, man, I'm like so incredibly appreciative of your time today and you coming on the podcast. I have a very cheesy line. If you've been on my podcast, you're part of my family. And
that's not cheesy. You're a beautiful human, John. And thank you for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure, man. This is really great. Can't wait to do it again, and can't wait to see what you got coming on the rest of the year.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.